about reaching a trade agreement with China. Meanwhile, today's Wall Street Journal detailing a lot of quiet trade negotiations going on with the Chinese. So is the administration's trade strategy working? Here now to react is Andy Roth, Club for Growth Vice President of Gov't Affairs. So, Andy, you got a lot of loud talk. It scares people like you. Sometimes it scares me. It clearly scared the market last week, which lost 1,400 points on the Dow, gained a lot of it back today. But what do you think this? You get the loud talk that comes out initially, and then you have the quiet negotiation where the real deals are made.
Yeah, you're starting to see a pattern here. A lot of your previous guests kind of hit on that point. The steel and aluminum tariffs were pretty scary at first, but now it looks like everybody's getting exempted, so they kind of took the teeth out of it, except for China. Now with this, the last week was so bad, you know, the stock market, if they hate one thing, they hate uncertainty. And as we're learning more and more about the negotiations, hopefully things are going to get better, and that's definitely our hope here.
You know, the other thing about President Trump, he looks at the whole picture. He considers himself, before being a business president, to be the commander-in-chief. He thinks that's the most important thing, and I agree with him. That's the most important thing a president can do. Today we get word, it's just a rumor, but it seems to be a pretty good rumor, that the North Korean leader is in China getting a finger wag from the Chinese saying, you better go and negotiate with the Americans. It appears that the trade talk on China, the tough trade talk, some of that might have had to do with North Korea. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with free trade agreements or just trade with other countries, you're talking about geopolitics and realpolitik. There's a lot of things at play here. The thing I want to emphasize, though, is that those tax cuts back in December, man, those are high-octane jet fuel for the economy. And for Republicans and the president's party, it's very important that the economy is humming along at 3%, 4%, 5% GDP growth, especially in the fall, yeah, when the elections come up. So even though there might be some volatility or even upside volatility, I think we need to reduce that volatility just a little bit if we're going to keep the eye on the prize later in the fall.
You know, one other thing that's happening in the fall is the budget comes up again for negotiation. The president, as you well know, on Friday said it kept everybody. We weren't sure whether he was going to veto this spending bill, but he was so anxious to get the military spending in that he did not veto it, but he said he would in the future. This is the last extraordinarily expensive bill that he was going to sign on the spending front. Some people think he's looking to November for that. Here's what Steve Forbes said about that on Friday. I want to get your reaction. Play the tape.
What you're going to see in the early fall, the president will veto the next spending bill. He will use it as a campaign issue. And if they've dominated things right on future tax cuts and the like, they could really stem the losses that they face now.
Andy, a lot of us were disappointed he didn't veto this spending bill, which was horrific in terms of the amount of money that they were spending. On the other hand, he's setting himself up for a win right before the elections.
I know. It would be a very beautiful thing. You know, members of both parties in Congress are absolutely addicted to spending. In fact, if you're a conservative or a liberal in Congress, you shouldn't have voted for that bill merely for the fact that you didn't even have 24 hours to look at all 2,200 pages before voting on it. And for Trump to be as disgusted with them as the American public is, I think that's a great message to go into the fall with. And if he vetoes it, a shutdown will be on the hands of Congress, and they'll have to answer for that.
Andy Roth, great to see you, Andy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.